Hello, folks. Another episode of Burning Platform, and it's a real pleasure to have today Gibu Mathews from Zoho in Singapore. I had a chance to spend some time with him at Zoho Day in Texas a couple of weeks ago, and I'm honored to have him today talk a little more in detail. So, Gibu, thank you, and let's start with introductions. Tell me about your role. Uh, you know, tell me everything about yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me here on your show, Vinny. It was a pleasure meeting you a few weeks back. And well, thank you for that intro too. And well, yeah, I am part of the APAC region for Zoho Corporation. And as part of I head the region and set strategy for products and how we go to market in the specific region. Well, I started off as a software developer in the year 2000, right? So, yeah, it's easier for me to actually count how many years has gone by. It's like 24 plus, or close to 24 now years at Zoho. It's been a great journey personally because I started off as a software developer, went through product management. I'm a technical guy, I would say, right? Been in a technology role most of my career, and I still am in touch with that aspect, focusing on products that um, solve IT operations problems, right? I'll give such a broad statement, but right now, focusing on how to grow the region. And of course, APAC is a broad region and it's a very interesting region. And that's what I'm doing right now.
So, define your what's your definition of APAC? So let's start with that, and also focus a little bit about, I've had Hyder from your EMEA group. I've had Carla from your Latin group in previous shows. Talk about how your region is different than the rest of the world.
Yeah. Okay. So APAC as a region is quite broad. I'd say there's close to around 30 plus countries in this region. But the major ones I would say are the Southeast Asia market, which is there are like close to 10 specific countries in ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, plus quite a lot of other countries, which
But
include
name a couple of those. Is it like Thailand and Malaysia, or is it more Indonesia?
absolutely. So Singapore, you have your Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and you have other countries, right? So I would say on the world map, if you look at countries from South Korea all the way up to Sri Lanka, which is close to India, right? That broad spectrum of countries there, and other countries in the in the Commonwealth of Independent States that came out of the USSR, right? So there's a broad set of countries that are part of this region, and it does not include, if you look at it, it does not include India, it does not include Japan, China, and Australia and New Zealand, right? Because those are large territories for us on its own, and hence it has its own focus independently. So that's what our APAC definition is. And this is a very interesting region specifically because it contains Southeast Asian nations, the ASEAN bloc, I would say, which is potentially going to be the fourth largest economy in the world by 2030, right? So there's a huge potential in this region specifically. And that's one of the primary reasons that we have put that extra focus by me being specifically present here in Singapore and focusing on countries in this region. And it's quite dynamic and it is quite diverse in terms of its languages, its cultural aspects, nuance, and a lot of other nuances when it comes to being a region. It's a wide region. It's got a lot of countries, different languages, different styles, different cultures, different business aspects.
And is it a multinational subsidiary market? Is it more vibrant small businesses of their own? Would you say there's any uniqueness about it?
Yeah, actually, this is a region which is, I would say, as I mentioned, it is a bit diverse. Like, for example, Singapore is quite an advanced economy in this region,
Right.
unlike the others, right? It's more a developed nation rather than like the others are more a little bit more developing, I would say. However, that said, a lot of regional offices are definitely there in some of these countries, especially Singapore is a hub for Asia for a lot of multinationals in the US and in Europe. And it's a launching pad to reach out to the other large economies in the region. Like, for example, you have countries like, say, Indonesia with over 200 million people population, right? There's a country like Indonesia here, right? Of course, that's a huge country. And you have quite a few such very interesting economies in this region, including you have countries like South Korea, you have, those are all major economies here, right? You have other economies also which are very strong in terms of its tourism, like Thailand or let's say Philippines. So the businesses are a bit varied based on which economy you talk about. But in general, yeah, if you look at Singapore, it's a global hub for innovation, a lot of advanced manufacturing, a lot of advanced AI is another big push by the government today. I mean, it's a different way how things are done in Singapore. And you have other important aspects like manufacturing or mining or agriculture in some of these. And of course, tourism is another big aspect in this region.
You know, Singapore is a fascinating place. I seem to come there every 5 years, and every time it's slightly different, right? They started off in shipbuilding, shipping was a major cargo and all that was a major focus 40, 50 years ago. Then they went through a back office phase where a lot of multinationals had accounting and other back offices in Singapore, and they went through a pharmaceutical, medicinal focus, and so now you say they're moving into AI. It is a fascinating country. From your perspective, personal perspective, what are the advantages of being based in Singapore? I would think good flights on Singapore Air would be one, but what other advantages? But what are also some of the, if you had a choice, would you be anywhere else?
Well, Singapore is a very interesting, lucrative place in terms of reaching out to rest of Southeast Asia, and the extra focus that the government itself puts in the first place to facilitate organizations to go regional, especially in Southeast Asia, is tremendous, is excellent actually. They facilitate a lot of activities for businesses. They reduce the friction to do business with other countries in the region. One, there's a very good talent pool that's very much attractive for anybody coming into this region. The next one is, of course, there's a heavy focus on very good education, right? The education system puts a heavy focus on getting the best talent out there and try to keep the talent learning literally all their life so that they're always up to date in terms of what the industry needs. Because Singapore, if you look at it, it doesn't have much natural resources. I would say it doesn't have any natural resources. It's a very small country, city state, right? But it has a lot of innovation that actually drives its core economy. And whatever is actually, say, for example, manufactured here in Singapore or any activity that is being done here in Singapore is quite high tech, right? So that is the way the country itself runs. And hence, there is a good mix. Okay, I would say it's a cauldron of the various languages, cultures, business styles, and you can get a flavor of all of that here in Singapore. And it's a kind of a hub into the region. And that's a very important reason why being in Singapore helps us, and also is a good, and hence is also a regional HQ for a lot of organization, right? So it's a regional HQ for maybe European companies and even companies from the US and other regional region and other regional companies in Asia.
Let's continue on the regional focus. Do you find certain, if you look at Zoho One as kind of the broad spectrum of applications that customer can look at, are there some applications in that are more popular than others in your region, or is it consistent with the rest of the world?
Well, I would say it is not consistent with the rest of the world. It is actually not predominantly dominated by one or few apps, but there are tens of apps that do considerably well, unlike other regions for Zoho, right?
Hmm.
So in that aspect, we have some very interesting capability. Of course, we have a very broad suite of products, right? When you look at the Zoho suite, so solutions for sales, marketing, we have email, we have collaboration, we have HR products, etc. Well, interestingly, three to four different groups of products do almost equally well in this region, and that's something which is slightly not normal, because we definitely tend to see some specific products like Zoho One or Zoho CRM, which are our flagship products that really do extremely well. But here there is a different mix. Partly, I would say, is because some of the countries in the region, okay, they are maybe not fully developed; they're still developing. They may not have seen the need for some of the other advanced technology or products that Zoho has. So there is a different spread for some of our products, right? Interestingly, something even as simple as maybe a Zoho Forms, right, does extremely well in one specific country in Southeast Asia itself, okay, does extremely well. I mean, so what that actually means is we have a broader suite of products that do well, and actually it is not the same set of products that do well in all the countries, right? So some products may do extremely well in one particular country, so there also is a little bit uh, diverse in terms of what product set works best in a specific country or region.
Are you finding that in places like Vietnam or um, even in Singapore, people say, I wish you had a manufacturing capability, or wish you had some industry capability. Are you starting to get some of those requests, or you have a broad enough focus right now?
I'm okay. So you're talking about Zoho itself having a manufacturing facility in Vietnam?
No, manufacturing functionality, right? Because Vietnam is getting so much manufacturing business now. Are you hearing some of that? Hey, Zoho, move into this area, move into this area.
Yeah, so definitely there is interest coming in, especially because of a broad portfolio of products. They pull and twist the products to their requirements, I would say, right? They tailor it to their requirements. And our price points are actually quite favorable also in this region, right? So that is also there, because this region has got different countries, I said, different languages and different currencies, right? There are like tens or twenties of different currencies in this country, in this region. And their currencies also fluctuate quite a bit. So there is that currency fluctuation pressure also that impacts a business's decision to pick up a specific product. And our products being priced quite well, having best value for the buck you spend, right? That actually facilitates a lot of them to use our products. And what that also means is it's not that all the Zoho one is probably necessarily the one which everyone goes for, but it could be even other simpler products that they get started with. And that's what we see in the region.
Um, what about government? You know, one thing Haider mentioned a couple of times, who runs your EMEA, that he's had success with regional, with specific governments, because they're encouraging e-invoicing or they're encouraging digitalization, right? Are you finding similar government support in your region?
Yeah, so interestingly, so I'll just give an example of Singapore itself, right? So the government brings out policies or supports SMEs, right, to digitalize, right? So typically SMEs are the ones who digitalize a little bit slower than the other companies, larger organizations. So the government actually does a lot of put some effort on that by even subsidizing uh, some of the products, for at least for the first year, right, of purchase, right? So maybe they'll give 80% or 50% of the license costs to the organization to buy a new software, right? So there are such digital agencies like IMDA in Singapore, where you can actually list your products after it gets approved by the government. And what we do is we list some of our products over there so that organizations can actually uh, buy the product at a even further lower price point. Right? So we work with local agencies to get our products listed in such websites. We also work closely with some of the government organizations like the DIPA in Thailand, which is a digital economy supporting organization, where we work with that agency to tell how technology can support businesses to improve their productivity, improve collaboration, and help them to see the value of technology in day-to-day activities. So we do a lot of activities with that organization. They take us to tier 2 or tier 3 cities or towns, and we do roadshows there, wherein a lot of business owners come in there, and we share with them how technology can add value to their organization, right? So we work with such organizations to support the community in these aspects. So another example I would quote is, say, in Philippines, right? So that's another large economy in the region. But post-COVID, some of their older organizations that were having a developer community kind of faded away. So, right, so they, like, it was called DEFCON. There's an organization called DEFCON in Philippines. So we worked with them. We worked with them to take our low-code platform, which is Zoho Creator, right? The Young Creator Program. We took it to different locations. Again, that is actually not in the city, but outside the city. We went to different locations to train and show that, you don't really have to build full apps from the ground up, but you can solve problems quickly, and it doesn't really cost you so much to actually achieve that, right? So we demonstrated that and showcased quick value through some of these programs. So these are some of the things that we do by working with local government organizations, local developer communities.
So you've got so many countries to support, so many scripts, so many languages, so many features. Your counterparts have to do similar for Africa. They have to do similar for, Latin America and so on. How do you lobby for your region? Or does Sridhar and Raju and those guys just give you do you have a soft spot in their hearts for you? How do you get support for your region? I've always been fascinated. Zoho's always announcing so much. How does the internal lobbying work for, hey, do something for me?
Well, I would say a lot of it is all primarily about product to market fit. For example, the regions would choose or pick and choose products that fit the region as much as possible without much extra effort as far as possible. Those are the ones which I would say we kind of prioritize. Well, for example, a lot of our products are a little bit neutral to the region. Let's say, for example, the CRM, of course, a lot of it is a bit neutral. Email is kind of neutral. It doesn't have any specific region-specific thing except for the language. So definitely what we would do is wherever English is not the primary language, we translate it, right? So that is reasonably easy to get through the product teams without much lobbying, I would say, because it's a small delta for the developing team to bring in multiple languages. But if there are involved capabilities, right, like bringing out a specific edition for say a finance suite of products, that is more involved, right? So those products we may not really prioritize for the region, but given the fact that Zoho has 50 plus apps, there are enough apps that the region can actually take to the market. And as of now, yeah, lobbying is definitely difficult, but at least for the medium term, we have sufficient products to really take to the market. So we constantly work closely with the product teams, sharing feedback, showing them stats on how revenue can be increased for the specific products by doing some local application integrations. And the best part is the Zoho marketplace itself is another important aspect, right? That is a technology piece that allows local partners or local businesses itself to integrate with and complement a Zoho product, right? So that is also helping in some way because partners also see that as an opportunity for them, as a business case for them to add value on top of the Zoho ecosystem.
Right.
So I would say a balance of all these helps the regions to take the various products to the market.
So, you mentioned so many different countries, from Philippines to South Korea to Thailand and so on. Are there some where you go, I haven't done much in the last few years. This is one or two countries in 2024 we're going to pay a little more attention to. Are there a couple?
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, I would say in the last couple of months, we started looking at a few economies we thought were not, um, uh, we didn't spend much time on. We actually started off. Interestingly, we have seen that Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and of course, those two are actually doing, reasonably well. Interesting for us to see coming up. Of course, our brand perspective is spilling over from India probably to those two countries, and we are seeing that helping us a lot more. So that is definitely an important countries that we are looking at, and surely we can do a lot more in South Korea than what we are doing. That's what I would put as a.
Not Cambodia as much, not emerging quick enough.
Cambodia, okay, interestingly, I'll be heading for Zoholics in Cambodia in 1.5 weeks. So, yep, not saying Cambodia is not in the list. It is definitely already in the list. Yeah, maybe it's a bit early to say uh, how much it is, but at least, yeah, it is definitely there as a new country for 2024.
Not Nepal or Myanmar, or not as big markets.
I mean, we have quite a few countries, so we need to prioritize, I would say, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
yeah. It's not that we don't want to be in those countries. We would love to be everywhere. We are there in most of these countries. Just that we haven't done maybe enough events and spent enough time locally being in those countries. But we definitely have partners in many of these countries or most of these countries. That's how I'll put it right now.
So, being in Singapore, you can have any cuisine. I want to ask you, what is your top two cuisines if you have a choice of going out to dinner?
My team is going to laugh when they hear this out. Okay. So I would say still Indian food is still my number one. Indian and Western are still my number one choices.
Nothing like Indian. You got to be specific. Is it South Indian filter coffee, or is it?
Oh, that doesn't matter. I'm actually okay with most of it. I would say Indian or a lot of even Italian. I'm also fine with that. Mediterranean. Those are all really kind of my favorites, I would say. Well, definitely there is very interesting cuisine in Singapore because Singapore is a place with a lot of food options. And if you're not aware, right? So Singapore itself has a sizable Indian population historically.
I've been to Little India in Singapore.
Absolutely, right? So it has got very strong cultural ties with at least three different ethnicities, I would say, and hence it's an amalgamation of all that, and it's a very interesting place.
Well, Jibu, any final thoughts?
Well, APAC is a interesting region with, I would say, Southeast Asia being a very big economy in another 5 to 10 years. It's already got a huge buying power, and it is seeing a lot of, it's definitely slightly different from the rest of the world because it works quite closely with China, unlike being completely dependent on the US. So there is a very interesting flavor to APAC as a region. And as Zoho, we are striving our best to make available our technology for organizations to transform.
Well, Jibu, thank you so much. I don't know how you keep up with all the travel and how do you survive all the different cuisines, but you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for taking the time, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much, Vinny, and thank you very much to all those who are listening in. Bye-bye.